Hey everybody, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today we have something kind of fun. I am going to show you the 16 things that this crocheter cannot live without when it comes to crocheting, of course. And just for the record, they're not in any particular order, so as we go through this, just wanted to keep that in mind. Well, let's go ahead and start with number 1. Yarn. I need yarn. Lots of yarn, all kinds of yarn. You see yarn behind me. I see yarn in boxes surrounding me in my studio. So Captain Obvious here, but yarn, number 1. Okay, well, let's try on number 2. Well, number 2 is going to be a yarn bag or a yarn basket, something to hold all the things that we like to carry with us. And I particularly love these African market baskets. I have picked these up at craft shows throughout the years. Honestly, I have a few of them, maybe 4 at this point, and I love every single one of them. I make use of them wherever I can. Of course, you can have a bag too. It's whatever you need to carry everything you need, especially if you're on the go, or even just to have it together with you in your favorite chair in your living room. All right, number 3, it's a combination of things. It's my hook pouch. And of course, with hook pouches, you have hooks. I have many hooks in here. And let me just show you that my favorite kind of hooks, this is not a paid endorsement, but I do have links for many of these things I'm talking about in the video description. Unfortunately, I don't have a link for this beautiful pouch, which I have been carrying for years, because I bought it at a fiber festival, and it's a handmade item by a local gal who does not sell them online. But anyway, keeping with number 3, my Susan Bates hooks. I need to have them in all sizes. These are called the soft type with the little elongated hook. Even though they're called soft, this is not a soft handle. It's a pretty hard plastic, but it feels wonderful in my hands. And I can invest in more expensive hooks of different types, but honestly, I have not found anything that holds a candle to my good old Susan Bates hooks. That's my opinion. I know there are different ones out there. And in fact, if you have different opinions on any of these things that I'm showing you, is this something that you don't need in your basket or your crochet bag? Let me know. If there are things that I'm leaving out as I go along, let me know that too, because I might want to add them to my bag. All right. So very, very important, my hook bag, pouch rather, and my hooks. Now for number 5, I have, again, in my little pouch here, stitch markers, beautiful stitch markers, and just kind of generic stitch markers. Let me show them a little bit closer to you, if it'll focus on that. And here's a little fancier one. Okay, so let me say a word about stitch markers. These are optional a lot of times, but they will make your life so much easier when you're working on complicated patterns and you need to know where to begin and where to end a particular motif. Also, you can use just a contrasting piece of yarn if you want to mark your area with that instead of a stitch marker. But honestly, if you're going to be crocheting a lot, invest in some nice stitch markers that you really like, because you will use them. And it's very important in crochet that they be the type that open up somehow. And this is also a great use of any leftover earrings. You know, whenever you lose earrings, you don't lose both of them, you just lose one. So you end up with an extra earring. Well, take it out. Now, as long as it's the type that opens and you can close it so it can attach well, use those extra earrings, put them in your little pouch, and use them for stitch markers. Yay. Okay, number 6 is a sharp pair of scissors. I have a very special pair. This is a nice, fun pair of scissors. And what I like about this is it can double as a self-defense weapon. if you can imagine, but I like to have a nice big pair of scissors for when I'm cutting fringe, in particular for designs. And you really need to have a sharp pair that's going to make a nice clean cut, not an old pair in your house that's just going to gnaw at the yarn, because that's just awful. So a good pair of sharp scissors. Along those same lines, you're also going to need a pair of small scissors, or at least I do. And what's great about this small pair of scissors is it fits right into my bag, just like that. The other great thing about having a small pair of scissors in your bag is that these are great for travel. If the blade is less than 4 inches, like this one is maybe an inch, it's definitely within that category. It is TSA approved. But again, do check with the regulations, because they can change from carrier to carrier, especially if you're traveling internationally. But generally speaking, these are approved for going in your carry-on in flying situations. I have taken these on board with me many times. I've never had a problem with them. Okay, another very important thing you are going to need is yarn needles. Yes, plural, not one, but many. Why do you think that is? You can only use one at a time, right? That's right. But you know how easy it is to lose these things, just like our stitch markers over here. Have many on hand. And with these needles, it's really fun to give these away too, because I give these away to students a lot. If they don't have one, I say, here, keep it with you. You're going to use it. These are fantastic for hiding all those loose ends. And with many, many uses, they do eventually break. They are only plastic, or at least the ones that I carry, but definitely have multiples of them. You can buy them online in craft stores very economically. All right, let me look in my bag here. Here we go. A tape measure, and I got mine personalized. So you never know when you're going to need to measure your project that you're working on, especially if you're working on a fitted garment, or even if you're just starting a swatch to get a gauge. So, and also this is great for measuring the gauge swatch and making sure that you are on target for your project. Don't go without this. Another very important component that you need to have in your yarn basket or bag: crochet books or crochet patterns. Whether you're using a hard copy or if you're using a PDF download, you can of course read it off of your electronics if you like to do that. But I like to print out a physical copy, even if I'm using a copy, a pattern in one of my books or somebody else's book. If I make a copy of it just for my private personal use, not to share with anybody else, that's a copyright infringement. But making a copy of that and then checking off as I progress in the pattern, it really helps me to keep better track, or you can just cross off the things as you go, however you want to do it. But again, just having those instructions handy is very helpful. I love my blocking mats, and you can see they come in a little zippered pouch. I actually have 3 sets of these, and I have enough so that I can block anything from a small shawl to a large throw. And in conjunction with these, and you can see they have nice grid on them, so it helps me to line things up, and also to measure. These are inch increments on and they go together really nicely like a puzzle. And they work very well with these. These are combs. These are blocking combs. So instead of using pins, I do have some T-pins as well. Let me show you. Okay, it's not focusing on it, but it's just a big pin. I use these sometimes, but somewhat sparingly, because if you lose one of these in your home, and usually in the carpet, chances are a family member who is unsuspecting will find them, and that can be a problem. So instead, I use these beautiful combs, and they are fantastic to block something quickly. They do not rust. And what's really nice about them, they come in this beautiful case. Let me show you. They come together in this beautiful case. I bought these online at Amazon. I'm going to put a link in the video description for these as well. Now they might have a slightly different name at this point, but they do have these available. A nice case to cover them and keep them all contained. I actually have 2 sets of these, and 2 sets of these are enough to block a large throw. Okay, very, very, very good investment. I have used these many times. Now, if you don't want to buy something like these mats online, you can always check at your local home improvement store. They do have these flooring type things. They might not have the grid on it, but no, there are other ways that you can economize on these blocking mats, but I love them. Just make sure that they're not absorbent. They will not absorb the water, but you want it to air dry. Another thing that I absolutely love is this sweater dryer. This can dry 3 sweaters or shawls or whatever you want to put on this. This is for those items that always have that label that say lay flat to dry. And it's really hard sometimes to find a flat surface that's roomy enough to, let's say, air dry all of your sweaters. If you have a lot of hand crocheted things, which I'm assuming you will, that you don't want to go through the dryer, even if your crocheted items say you can put them in the dryer, just know that when you do that, it wears them out faster as the fabric rubs against each other. I recommend that you have something like this, and what's great about it is you can hang it up in, over the shower curtain, over a door frame or whatever, and it folds very flat. It actually twists. I'm not going to be able to do this right now. You can twist it. Okay, maybe I can. Into a circle. Actually, you do this twice, and it can fold away very flat, but I use mine often enough to just have it folded like this and resting in between my washer and dryer so that it's always ready for my laundry, which is very helpful because that way I know I will use it if it's out and I see it. If it's folded away and hidden away somewhere, I won't use it. This gets a lot of airtime, no pun intended, in my household. This is one of my favorite things in my collection, both for crocheting and as well as for travel. This is just a little handheld steamer. Although I do recommend that you use distilled water if you can, or at least bottled water, just to keep the minerals from spitting onto your clothes. But you just fill with some water, put the top on. This has to be plugged in electronically. Turn it on, and then within a minute or less, the water will turn to steam and it comes out the opening right there. And this is fantastic when, let's say, you're traveling and your shawl that you're going to wear, especially if it's made out of wool, it may get a bit wrinkled in the travel process. So you can just steam it out nicely. You can also steam out any other clothing that you want to wear. This is the best thing in the world for fringe. A lot of times you make fringe for a garment and maybe the yarn is near the center of the ball where the yarn is very curly and wavy, and you don't want that effect. So just simply steaming will make that yarn nice and straight just the way you want it for your fringe. We are getting close. We only have 3 more things to show you. And again, please comment below. Am I leaving something out that you must have? Are some of these things kind of frivolous to you? Let me know. I really would love to hear what you have to say about this. All right, number 14, and extremely important, a pair of reading glasses. I love these. I do get these from Amazon in a pack of 3. Not only do they help me to magnify things so that I can see better, but they also are blue light glasses, so it keeps your eyes from getting a little tired from working on the computer a lot, and I do spend a lot of time working on the computer. I highly recommend these, and they also make a pretty fun headband. sometimes. Anyway, another thing that I absolutely love is my yarn bowl. And I know they have so many different ones. This one is available from Knit Picks. It's made out of maple wood. And there's nothing extra special about that per se, but it is pretty to look at. And it's something that I have sitting in my room. And why do people have yarn bowls? Some people are like, oh, that's so extravagant, right? Yeah, it is. But let me tell you why. This yarn bowl keeps the yarn from rolling around on the floor. It also helps the yarn to come off evenly, and it just mostly helps to keep that yarn safer. Anyway, and even when I'm carrying a yarn basket, sometimes the ball can get kind of tangled up with some of the other yarn that I may have in there. So if I use the yarn bowl, even inside my yarn basket, just like that, it keeps the yarn a little more safe from getting tangled up with the other yarn in the vicinity. All right. And last but not least, this is something I discovered many years ago at a yarn conference. These are called knit clips. Let me show you. And they open like this. It looks like a little piranha, right? Well, what is so great about these? Well, what is wonderful about the knit clips is when you're making, let's say, a garment, or if you're just connecting two pieces of crochet fabric in any way where you have to hold them together, this kind of takes the place of straight pins. And like I mentioned about the T-pins for blocking, I don't like to use a lot of straight pins in my crochet. For one thing, they can get lost in the crochet fabric in themselves, and not to mention getting lost in our carpet, and like I said, being found by me at a later date or a family member, which would be even worse, usually through the feet. That's not a good thing. These help prevent that. These are very easy to see. They're hard to lose. And you can just connect the fabric all along with these, and it makes sewing or crocheting things together a breeze. They do come in smaller sizes as well. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed my 16 things that this crocheter must have in order to live. Well, as a crocheter, that is. Please let me know. Again, comment below. I would love to hear anything that I left out that's just like so obvious that I need to be told. Please let me know. Are some of these things a little excessive? Let me know that too. And if you're looking for any of these items, I do have a list in the video description, or at least a list for most of them where you can obtain them in case you can't find them locally. Well, God bless. Bye-bye.